All right, thank you. It's me again, same me, different panelists. So very happy to be hosting the last panel of the day. There's another closing, but thanks for staying with us. Love to introduce one more time all the new panelists. Maybe a quick intro for everyone, and yeah, what do you do, what your company does, and maybe also your background.
Sure. This is Alessio Quaglini. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HexTrust. HexTrust is a financial institution operating in the digital asset space since 2018. We're basically known for custody, but we provide a broad range of services, including custody, staking, OTC, structured products, solutions, etc. We originally from Hong Kong, but we have offices and licenses in Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, and Europe.
I'm Warren Paul Anderson, the co-founder and CEO of Imua. Imua is a universal protocol for shared security. We are introducing staking for XRP, and we've been working on the project for over 2 years. A lot of veterans on the team, and looking forward to bringing more yield products into the XRP ecosystem.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for staying here. Last panel of the day. My name is Jiang. I'm Chief Business Officer of CertiK. CertiK we're considered as the largest security service provider to this industry, and you know, we've been serving this industry since 2018.
Perfect. Today, the topic is stablecoins and yields and RWAs. The focus for today is digital asset infrastructure with a pretty big focus on regulation and regulatory frameworks that have been introduced recently. We know that MiCA went live in Europe. It's markets for crypto asset regulation. We have the Hong Kong stablecoin ordinance that took place last month, and we see lots of banks now moving into the digital infrastructure space. And since we have HexTrust here with us, I would love to get your view about what the stablecoin ordinance means, what that means for custody, what it means for HexTrust, and also more importantly, what it means for your customers.
Well, first of all, I think it's we're really at a stage right now where regulation is going to be part of the crypto world. And until now, I would say stablecoins were really the only part of the crypto ecosystem that had not been touched by regulation. Now we have frameworks appearing in all the leading jurisdictions, and this will really reshape the way we imagine crypto as a whole, the market, and the way we can transfer money on a blockchain. Hong Kong, what happened in Hong Kong is really, I would say, a little bit surprising and revolutionary. Not to look at it from a geopolitical perspective, but obviously, we in the recent few months and years, we're seeing currencies and tariffs being used as a geopolitical weapon, right? And obviously, the Genius Act in the U.S. has really put forward the political agenda of the U.S. and U.S. dollar to be distributed widely and broadly across the world. So the question is, if this is going to happen to the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar that is already basically a leader in the stablecoin world is going to be basically distributed to all the developing jurisdictions where stablecoins are widely adopted, what is going to be the role for the other financial markets? And that's where I would say the regulation in Hong Kong came from. From the 1st of August, basically, certain financial institutions authorized by the HKMA can issue stablecoins. The regulation has been written in a way that is quite comprehensive and really prescriptive in terms of what needs to happen to the minting and burning facilities for stablecoins, how reserves should be managed, and what kind of AML and CFT tools stablecoin issuers need to put in place. There is something missing, obviously, that is the most interesting part for stablecoins. So yield distribution is not going to be is not going to be allowed, which probably is going to make stablecoins a little bit less palatable than the, I would say, unregulated versions. Now, what's really interesting about the regulation? The regulation is for Hong Kong dollar stablecoin. Now, Hong Kong dollar is not really well, it is a stable coin, it is pegged to US dollar, but it's not really an international currency that is used for international trade flows, right? So Hong Kong dollars, I see the Hong Kong dollar regulation as a little bit of a sandbox to later develop a proper stablecoin framework for the renminbi, right? For the internationalization of renminbi, and basically to create this competitive landscape, at least in the blockchain space, against the US dollar.
Now, okay, let's dig a bit deeper into this, because this is really interesting. We know that Hong Kong is establishing the stablecoin regime. We know that Europe is establishing another regime that is maybe similar in some aspects, but still vastly different. For example, me being a European citizen, I cannot purchase USDT anymore on my Binance account. I can only use USDC. What does regulation mean for stablecoin competition?
Yeah, sure. Well, it really means that unregulated stablecoins will not really have a lot of market in the regulated markets. Right, so in Europe, unregulated stablecoins are not going to be banned, and they have not been with MiCA. But basically, all the intermediaries that will receive a license under the MiCA framework, they will not be able to market and distribute unregulated stablecoins. So, which will mean that in Europe, there will be only regulated stablecoins under Europe. In the US, there will only be regulated stablecoins under the US framework. In Hong Kong, in Singapore, there will only be stablecoins allowed under those frameworks. What does it mean? Obviously, regulation can be a little bit different in each of these jurisdictions, right? So, for example, in Europe, you have to keep at least, I think, 60% of your reserves within Europe. So every single, I would say, ecosystem, a country ecosystem or a continent ecosystem will have a little bit different rules. But everybody will have a few stable coins in their own currency that will be highly regulated. So what's going to be extremely interesting is going to be, all right, I will have my own regulated stable coins in Europe, but what if my clients are exchanging stable coins that are not regulated in Europe with my stable coin in Europe? So what will emerge is the concept of equivalent jurisdictions. So regulation in Europe will kind of start recognizing stable coins that have been issued under a regulated framework, maybe in the US, and vice versa. And Hong Kong will have to start accepting stable coins that have been issued in the US and in Europe. So you will have kind of a tier one regulatory frameworks that will be more or less equivalent and will allow free circulation and exchange of value in stable coins across these jurisdictions. We're just at the beginning right now, so at least we need to have these frameworks in place to make sure that a bunch of stablecoins for each continent will be approved. But then the next step will really be this kind of interconnectivity across different stablecoins and regulatory frameworks.
Really appreciate all the insights. I would love to go for a bit away from regulation and more to security. Jason, we talked about it earlier. When you look at all the different stablecoins, CertiK has done a stablecoin report, you told me, and since we have a lot of retail investors today here with us, what are a few stablecoin depegging or security risks that you see from CertiK point of view that you can share today with us?
Yeah, we have, so far we have audited more than 50 stablecoins already, since the stablecoins become a very hot topic. In our opinion, the top three factors for depegging, which is detrimental for any stablecoin, is that first of all, it's about proof of reserve or collaterals that any stablecoins can offer to the general public when they issue the stablecoins. Terra was one of the example. When depegging happens, it's a death spiral. So that's the first factor. The second factor could be that the smart contract or the software that's behind it or the design behind it, whether it has any vulnerabilities that can be exploited by the hackers. The third one, not the last one, but not the least important, it's about the social practice of the stablecoin project. To add more complexity to it is that the AI technology is now it's being incorporated into those hacking, potential hacking hacking methodologies. We're starting to receive requests about auditing those AI agents that's trading on the whether it's a stable coin or trading on the tokens as well. And those, when we analyze those AI agents, it has so much more attacking vectors than the current smart contract type of designs there. So certainly adds a lot of complexity. And then a simple social media attack could cause the whole project to go down. And those are some of the real concerns that we see. And frankly speaking, this is a challenge for us as well.
I think you put it pretty to the point where I guess added complexity will leave the option for hackers to exploit. Now, we have here also Imua, you are building something very interesting because it's in the intersection of yields, RWAs, but also complexity. Now, I'd love to learn more about how your product works, how you see RWAs, and how you see this complexity work in between the products that you offer.
Yeah, sure. Imua took a very kind of horizontal scaling approach with regard to staking and restaking. So we fundamentally believe that all tokenized assets can and should be staked. If they're being held, they have an opportunity to earn yield. So we kind of rewrote a lot of the kind of preconceived notion of what staking is. Taking the classic case of proof of stake and applying it to assets like XRP that don't have staking, that don't have like native staking. Assets like Bitcoin or UTXO chains that don't have native staking, and introducing staking yield to that. But then you can also apply it to RWA. RWAs, we're starting to work with several different types of RWAs, non-obvious types. I'll give you a hint. They're the natural resource types that are commonly found in states like Texas, where Brian's from. These are assets that are non-correlated with crypto, which is very attractive because we're all in this space, and it ebbs and flows, and we want to hitch on to assets that actually have non-correlated risk exposure. So bringing in those assets too that can actually be staked. We kind of were skeptical initially about like whether RWAs can, there's the staking promise behind them, because how do you slash a real world asset, right? But it turns out that slashing itself doesn't mean it has to be burned. It can just be reappropriated to, cover losses of different types. So we're pretty excited about, introducing, staking on a mass scale and seeing what happens, especially when you can aggregate the staking power of these assets in a way that developers can use to secure off-chain systems. It could be anywhere from bridges to oracles to AI networks. We are based in Silicon Valley, so we talk to a lot of these frontier technologies. Turns out there's a lot of a lack of trust in robotics, right? Do people want humanoid robots, walking around their houses? Maybe they will if they understand it's backed by the decentralized security of XRP or Bitcoin, where it creates some thresholds that that they know that the robot can't theoretically break. So there's a lot of exciting applications, I think, that mixes the space of like RWAs, tokenized assets, with not just real world assets, but real world use cases.
That's really interesting. And this is an open question to everyone. Feel free to pick it up. When you think of yield sources, and I'm not talking about the very typical yield source. I'm talking about yield sources that typically are not available and offered to retail users. We call them unconventional yields or alternative yield sources. Are there anything that Imua is maybe incorporating or HexTrust is also considering in terms of custody side?
In terms of yield sources, so the yield on Imua is a sustainable yield backed by real revenue. So services are actually paying fees to effectively lease the economic security of XRP, of Bitcoin, of ETH, to use to secure, their off-chain systems. And that's coming. We've made it in a way. It's a very multi-token design, where the services themselves can pay the fees in any asset that we support, including stablecoins, native tokens, and then we also have an implementation where they can pay in fiat. So you can think of a robotics company paying in fiat to have XRP economic security, where the robots are backed by XRP. And we did that because now there are rails that you can implement where it's a fiat user interface or experience, where they're like paying their AWS bill, just for compute. They're paying a bill for economic security and verifiable trust of, these crypto assets. And then there's a conversion happening in the background of the actual crypto. And then that's when we can take it and turn it into economic security. So, we're trying to kind of widen the aperture of what's possible with both yield sources and the actual, assets that are being staked.
Yeah, sure. So basically, in a nutshell, there are more or less 3 types of yield that are available to users in the blockchain nowadays. So one type of yield basically comes from the protocols themselves, whether they are the blockchain protocols or the DeFi protocols. The second type of yield comes basically from financial markets. And the third type basically comes from assets that are not on chain, kind of RWA, that are generated outside of the blockchain ecosystems. So in our case, in terms of generating and offering yield to our clients, we do provide access for staking for the major chains. We do not provide kind of DeFi yield, meaning strategies to kind of extract yield by providing capital to liquidity pools, et cetera, because it's kind of more of a, I would say, we only serve institutional investors, so this kind of yield source is more for, I would say, for retail. On the second side, on financial market strategies, the main 2 sources, I would say, are basically either selling volatility, kind of cover calls, etc., or basically basis trade strategies, similar to Athena, etc. And we do provide for institutional investors access to these kind of yield sources and basically running basis trade strategies for them, even wrapped up as kind of investable regulated instruments in certain jurisdictions. And the third source is basically more or less, let's call it RWAs, so which basically means you hold something somewhere and you kind of mirror this yield on-chain to your users. So for example, in HexTrust, we have our own stablecoin. It's called USDX. And you can basically earn the yield offered by the treasury bills that we hold at the back, plus some kind of subsidies that are offered by the chains that host our stablecoins, and is basically available to actually all of the users, not only institutional investors, but anybody who buys USDX.
That's actually really interesting. I first of all appreciate everyone's input and insights so far. I see that we're closing down on the end of the panel, so that's why I want to ask one more question, which is, what is your anticipation, or what would you like to see on the XRP ledger going forward? Next months, next weeks.
So I joined Ripple in the summer of 2016 when there were only 50 people at Ripple, and you could only buy XRP through buying Bitcoin first. There are no fiat pairs, so it's great to see how much progress XRP's been making. And with the introduction of the RLUSD, but I really want to see, XRPL kind of DeFi start to grow. By introducing a staking yield, we think that's the benchmark rate, for XRP DeFi. This happened in Ethereum. There's a reason why Ethereum DeFi is so liquid, is because the XRP or the ETH staking yield serves as that benchmark rate for which other staking or yield products can be built on top of that. So we're really excited to introduce that staking yield so that other DeFi yield products can be built within the XRP ecosystem, so that there's a sustainable kind of, as they say in TradFi, risk-free rate, for yield. So that's what we're really excited for.
To me, I think, I've been watching Ripple has been steadily improve its market position over the past 3 years. And it's amazing that a job they have done to cross all the major hurdles, like legislative, even, some of the lawsuits that they have to pass through. So for me, I think Ripple is going to, for the next year and 2 years, it's going to really enjoy the hype through the U.S. New policy, and sky is the limit for them.
Well, I would like to see. XRP is the third or fourth largest asset right now. I don't know how many billions, but close to 200 probably. And yes, it doesn't have kind of a native integration into DeFi. It doesn't allow users to actually freely move it across different chains and earn yield that we talked about, both from a protocol level and from a DeFi level perspective. I would love to see wrapped versions of XRP issued on different chains. And I would like to see these versions to be fully compatible with the standards that are basically utilized in DeFi, either on EVM or mainly on EVM, but also on Cosmos chains, so that we start putting at work basically this kind of hundreds of billions of XRP to basically provide margin, to provide collateral, for example, for cross-border payments and for financial primitives in borrowing and lending marketplaces. I think all these things, XRP is extremely well positioned to power these financial engines, and yes, I would really love to see some kind of quick steps in that direction.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit more about that, especially for the RWAs. I think this is already the gateway for, mass adoption, and I really wanted Ripple to incorporate more RWA projects into their network.
One thing, so I've been coming to Korea. Well, my first trip here was 2012, but I've been coming here 2017, 2018, 2019 to kind of help, grow or seed the XRP market here in Korea. And I don't know if anyone said this on stage yet, but I travel all over the world, many different crypto markets, and Korea is the most special crypto market in my mind because it has the strongest retail audience by far. And that is unique and special, and I thank everyone in this room that's still here, but also just for supporting, the crypto market and continuing to mature it and help it grow, because the Korean market is kind of the icon, I think, of the entire world. So appreciate you.
I think we're definitely on track to changing the trajectory of how Ripple will develop in the coming years. So very happy and appreciate your time for joining today. Thanks for sharing your insights. Big applause, everyone, to Jason, Warren, and Alessio. Thank you.